Hey, how's it going everybody? Welcome back to Aussie Fish Keeping. So in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at 7 of the best community fish. So for this list, I put groups of fish just because if I put specific species on here, the list would just be so long. There'd be about like 300 fish on this list. But if you do want me to make another video where I go into more specific fish, then definitely leave that in the comments below. But for today, we're just talking about 7 of the best groups of fish that can go together. So all of the fish on this list can cohabitate together really well, and they can also cohabitate with quite a number of other different species. But with that being said, let's just jump straight into today's video. So the first fish on our list, without surprise, is Tetras. So obviously there is hundreds and hundreds of different species of Tetras out there, and all of them are quite good community fish. So they are pretty shy and friendly little fish, and they don't really cause too much trouble between your other fish in your aquarium. As well as that, they do actually do better in larger groups of fish or shoals, just because being a smaller fish, they generally like to be with a lot more other fish so they don't get preyed on as easy. But yeah, if you went into any pet shop and asked them what the best community fish would be, they would definitely say something like a neon tetra or a Bristlenose tetra. So they are only really good in tropical communities just because they do like a little bit of heat in their water, and they also do like the tropical water parameters. So I definitely wouldn't go keeping these guys with any sort of African cichlids or goldfish. But some fish that you can keep with these guys is obviously any other tetras, small catfish, barbs, and even maybe some guppies. But besides that, tetras are definitely one of the best fish that you can keep in a community tank. Now, moving on to our second fish on the list, I just mentioned it briefly before, we have barbs. So I'm not really talking about any of the larger size barbs like rosaline barbs or mascara barbs. I'm talking about the smaller ones like tiger barbs and cherry barbs. Just because these smaller ones are generally a little bit less aggressive, although they can be known for being a little bit nippy at times, they still do make very good community fish. So barbs are definitely one of the best in a planted aquarium. The only thing is you have to be very careful on what barbs you put in a planted aquarium, just because some things like rosy barbs can eat plants. Although generally if you stick with the checkered barbs, cherry barbs, or tiger barbs, you shouldn't have any troubles with them eating your aquarium plants. So as I said before, sometimes barbs can be a little bit nippy with your other fish, although if you do have them in a decent sized tank with enough fish in there so that the aggression is sort of evened out, you shouldn't find too much trouble with these guys being aggressive. So barbs are quite hardy, although obviously they do prefer a tropical water parameters, and they also like a little bit of heat in their water as well. The great thing about barbs too is that they are on the cheaper side of fish, so you can pick them up for quite cheap. And as well as that, there is a wide variety out there of different colors and patterns. The final thing I absolutely love about barbs is that they come in a wide variety of sizes as well. So obviously you can get the larger barbs like rosaline barbs or mascara barbs. But if you do want them in a smaller community tank, like I said before, the smaller size barbs like checkered barbs or cherry barbs are definitely some of the best community fish that you can get. But yeah, with that being said, another great community fish is definitely barbs. Moving on to the next fish on our list, we have Bristlenose Catfish. So one of the reasons Bristlenose Catfish are great fish is because they kind of just mind their own business. So generally they just stay around the bottom of the tank. They don't really do much. They don't really try and start fights with any other fish. They don't have any sort of territory. They just sort of go around the bottom looking for food. So that makes them just great community fish because they're not really trying to fight any of your other fish. They're definitely not going to nip at their fins or anything, and as long as your other fish don't nip at them, they can cohabitate really well. So Bristlenose Catfish are another tropical fish, although these guys would prefer a little bit of flow if you can provide that, and most of the time some of the tetras do like a little bit of flow as well. So they are definitely great tank mates for each other, and they do like a little bit of heat as well. So like the other fish, Bristlenose Catfish come in a variety of different colors and patterns, and the great thing about these guys is they can actually benefit your aquarium having them in there. So a lot of the time they are sold as cleaner fish, and I've said this before, but they aren't really a cleaner fish. They are another fish for your aquarium. You still have to feed them, you still have to care for them. That's what I think. A lot of people get these guys just because they're beginners and they just think that they can feed off like the algae or detritus in your aquarium, which is completely false, and you do actually need a specific diet for these guys. Although they will actually go along the bottom of your aquarium picking up detritus and leftover bits of food, but it's definitely beneficial to throw in some live blackworms for them or even a Cory wafer. So the great thing about these guys as well is they are super duper easy to care for, and they don't really have any crazy requirements. As long as you keep pretty stable water parameters, keep feeding them, and keep a pretty good temperature for them, they will just thrive in your aquarium and they shouldn't bother any of your other fish. But yeah, that definitely is another great factor about them, and it's another great reason they make the perfect community fish. So moving on to the next fish on our list, we actually don't have a fish, we have cherry shrimp. So cherry shrimp can only really go in community nano tanks just because obviously they are very small and they can get preyed upon pretty easy by medium to large sized fish. Although the great thing about cherry shrimp is they can hide if they need to, and as well as that, they will never really nip at your fish. So they are definitely the least aggressive on the list just because they don't really have the capability to be aggressive towards your fish, and most of the time they're just too scared and they're just trying to hide from your other fish. So these guys can actually be classed as a cleaner fish as well because they will clean up a lot of the detritus and algae in your aquarium, and they are super beneficial to have in your aquarium. So these guys would actually make a great tank mate for a guppy or an endler just because they don't really like heat in their aquarium, and a lot of the other fish on this list do. So yeah, they just make great little cold water or unheated aquarium fish. As well as that, you can get them in a variety of different colors and sizes, and yeah, I just really think they are another awesome little community fish. So moving on to the next fish on our list, we have another catfish. We have Bristlenose Catfish. So Bristlenose, much like the Rasboras catfish, will just mind their own business. They won't try and start fights with any of your other fish, and as long as they're not getting nipped at or picked on, they are definitely a great community fish. So these guys are sold a lot of the time as well as cleaner fish, just because they will take a lot of the algae off your surface of your aquarium, so on your glass and on your rocks. Although, like the Rasboras catfish, they do need a whole diet just for themselves. So it's super beneficial for some of your bristlenose to put wood in there for them to chew on, and also feed them algae wafers. But besides that, they are super easy fish to care for, and they go great with pretty much any type of fish out there. So they can go well with African cichlids, they can go well with any sort of nano fish or Australian natives or goldfish, pretty much any fish you can think of. As long as it's in fresh water, these guys will go well with, as long as they're obviously not going to get eaten or picked on by the other fish too much. So with that being said, bristlenose are definitely my pick for one of the best community fish that you can get for your aquarium. Moving on to the next fish on our list, we have Rasboras. So Rasboras are very similar to Tetras, except most of the time the Rasboras are a lot smaller. So this makes them great nano community fish, and they can go really well with the cherry shrimp. So being a smaller fish, you only really want to keep them with small fish like Bristlenose Catfish or cherry shrimp, and you don't really want to be keeping them with anything big and aggressive, just because these guys can get frightened quite easily and they can die that way, and also they can die obviously from being picked at and stressed out a lot. But yeah, they don't generally bully any of your other fish, and they definitely make great community fish for that reason. So they do like tropical water parameters, and they do like a little bit of heat in their water, as do a lot of tropical fish. But another great thing about these is, much like the Tetras and Barbs, is that there is a massive variety of different types out there. So you can get the chili Rasboras, maculata Rasboras, green Rasboras, just a whole load of different colors out there, and they are just definitely one of the best community fish that you can get for your aquarium. So moving on to the last fish on our list, we have one of my favorite fish, actually the first fish I ever bred. We have Danios. So Danios and Celestial Pearl Danios make some of the best community fish out there. They can be a little bit aggressive and nippy at times, but much like the Barbs, if you keep them in large shoals of different fish, where the aggression can be evened out equally, then you shouldn't find that they nip at any particular fish too much, and all of your fish should stay relatively healthy. So the great thing about Danios is they are very hardy and they don't actually need any heating in their water, although it is highly beneficial, and they can also withstand a lot of different water parameters. So these guys can go great with Tetras, Barbs, Rasboras, and they can also go great with things like swordtails, platies, and guppies. But besides that, Danios definitely make great community fish, and I would highly recommend them for anybody looking for a community fish for their aquarium. But with that being said, that is going to bring us to the end of today's video. So I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope I helped you guys find a new community fish for your aquarium. If you like these videos and want more videos like this, make sure to comment your thoughts on the video down below and let me know if you like these kind of videos, and also let me know on the different videos you'd like to see in the future. So if you haven't already, please make sure to go down and subscribe, and like I said before, if you could, make sure to comment down below. I love reading all the comments that I get from you guys. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in that next video.